So let's talk about status correction. This term is very common out there in the world of trying to go private and trusts and you know it's a deep rabbit hole where you start hearing these different terms, and on the surface it makes sense. It's like, oh, I'm going to correct my status. I'm going to go from public to private. But the reality is that people who are hearing this term, they don't understand what's behind it, because status correction implies that you take an action and then, oh, it's magical and it's done. And that encourages people to go down these paths where they're like surface level tactics, tips, and tricks that, instantly move you from the public to the private. And that is not at all how this process works if you do it the right way. So, first of all, this idea of status correction, when it comes to actually moving forward and becoming private, there's no way to correct what's already been done in the public. You can't make an entity that's a slave entity into an entity that is under God. There's no way to convert that. So, because a lot of people come into my community, and you can check out the link below, and they are using all these other different public entities. That's normal when everyone starts somewhere. But when you want to go into the private, you have to enter a whole new paradigm, a whole new way of thinking, a whole new mode of operation, and also a whole new set of particulars in terms of the documents and the way those documents are enforced. So status correction, I see a lot of people trying to apply to different state agencies and say, hey, I'm a state citizen or a state national, or all these different terms floating around out there. But part of, this idea of status correction is this internal realization where your heart is pulling at you and telling you, I'm not a slave. I don't have to listen to the government. I'm free under God. But how do I express that in my business dealings, in my life, just in general? And more importantly, how do you express that in writing? Because in writing is where, we do business, where we buy things and sell things and look after our assets. And so how to express that relationship with God in writing, that is really the challenge with trying to so-called correct your status. And the quick hacks and the quick surface layer tricks where you apply for something, those are just background illusion from the devil that is going to take you in the wrong direction. And I've seen so many examples of people trying these quick hacks and tactics and tricks, and inevitably it doesn't correct the foundation. And the foundational layer is that at birth, you were given a trust that was revocable, that the government owns, your straw man, your Social Security. And there is no way to correct that, that contract. That contract is already, it's already a slave contract. So you have to subrogate that and create something entirely new. And then even once that's done, you have to live day by day by the new contract you sign. And that's another important piece to this that I don't see talked about a lot. This isn't, correcting your status isn't a one-day thing. It's not like, oh, I just did it, and then, things fall from the sky and there's a celebration and the IRS is like, good job, buddy, and they give you a big green button to push. No, nothing like that. It's actually crickets. No one's going to acknowledge anything except for you, because you have to take the right education to know that you're on the right path under God. So the way we do it in our community is we use a trust, and that trust, as far as the statutes and codes, falls under 508c1a, which is the pathway out of all the hoops that you have to jump through, because this trust is non-filing, it's tax exempt, and it's a nonprofit. And when you combine those elements, you create an entity that really has the ultimate freedom that allows you to operate in private, do your business, but then you can move into the public and do business when you want to. You can get an EIN, you can buy and sell things, you can make a profit. But because it's in this entity that is classified in a certain way and by law cannot make a profit, now all your actions are protected, and the contract is written in such a way that's ecclesiastical in nature. So in terms of the public realm, the entity that we're looking at protecting us is Jesus Christ. So even once that contract is signed, I meet a lot of people who signed that contract. And it's like, great, okay, you signed it, and now you have to implement it. And that's where it gets tricky because people have all these public entanglements and obligations and businesses and IRAs and all kinds of different things. And if you're truly free under God, you operate in a fully free manner. Like there's not even one red cent of yours is going to be under the control or the purview of the IRS. And that's a very hard and high bar for most people. Most people will really never achieve that in this lifetime. There's just too many entanglements, too much Stockholm syndrome, too much programming for them to ever get there. So even though they signed this trust, their status actually is not corrected because they're not acting like it's corrected. And that is a key part of this, is the person who wants to correct their status, they have to be conscious in a way where they wake up in the morning and every single action they realize, oh, I'm free today. And I need to act in a way that's free and not a slave. And so every single action, every day, even after they sign, matters. It's all weighed. And ultimately, if you act in a way that's a slave, is your status really corrected? Because many people, they think it's just signing a document. Oh, where's the template? Let me just sign it. No, it's how do you enforce that? And then how do you act like that day by day, for the rest of your days that you're breathing in this reality? And that is a very high bar. Even myself, I find it quite challenging. And so to truly correct your status, it's not a one-time action. It's not something you do even a few times. It's something that you have to live and breathe and embody. And you have to examine all your actions and then find a path that you can walk that is free from government control and that allows you to follow the common law, so you're not harming anyone else. And there are a whole number of other particulars within that you can learn if you join our community and go forward with the trust that we use from Liberty Aid Academy. But suffice it to say that this is not a quick fix. It's not, anytime you hear the word status correction, frankly, I would run far away because there's a lot of internet gurus and trust people who are throwing that term around, as well as a lot of other fancy terms, and they're leading people astray time and time again. This isn't something you apply for. This is something that you do without permission, so you don't apply for anything, really. All the steps that we use in our process, you don't have to ask permission from anyone. They're all out there. Even when it comes to interacting with the IRS, we can get an REIN that we use specifically, and we don't apply for it, really. We just get it. There's a process that works every time if you do it the right way. And so even once that process is done, then you have to learn the particulars on how do you enforce it and how do you act like that on a daily basis. And look, God knows that we're all living in sin. We all have to start somewhere. So it's about getting better. It's about becoming more conscious of your mistakes and then learning from the past and then doing better and not doing those mistakes again. And so that is a daily process that you'll live for the rest of your life. Your status won't be corrected truly until you are one with God and you've achieved, let's say, Christ consciousness. That is when your status is truly corrected. And, I'm not enlightened. I'm just a guy that's out here walking on the path. I have proven certain things and my track record is out there. If you want to join my community in the links below, you can learn more. But this is not something that's a quick fix. A lot of people market it like that, and it's definitely not the case. So I would encourage those who are really looking to change on the inside and out and embody this new paradigm to, join myself and many others who are walking this path. We're all sharpening each other's swords. We're all learning from each other, learning from each other's mistakes, and getting better every single day. And that's what it really takes to correct your status ultimately, not be under the government and act like a slave, but act like a free human being, man or woman under God. So I look forward to seeing many of you on this path, and for the rest of you, good luck.